Trump pardoned a bunch of January 6ers. We know that. That in and of itself was a horrible act, because the symbolism of it and just it as an action is saying, I don't think that people, even some who violently attacked police officers, should be fully held legally accountable. So that by itself, horrible. Another logistical truth is that when you let a bunch of criminals, as MAGA has been saying they believe, out of prison real early, being told their violence was acceptable and their participation in an attempt to violently overturn an election result was acceptable, what then they'll go on to do can also be really dangerous. So approving of the conduct is horrible. Then those people being out and about is also a really dangerous phenomenon. And now we're seeing the impact of that. I'll show you Mike Johnson responding to this news and Hakeem Jeffries then rebuking him on it in a second. But first, the news itself is that a man who Trump pardoned then got arrested. What did he get arrested for? Wanting to and threatening the murder of Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader.
Scott McFarland joins us now with the very latest. Scott, what'd you find out?
Hey, Kelly, his name is Christopher Moynihan. On January 6th, he was on the Senate floor among the small group of rioters who seized control of the Senate gallery, was rifling through desks, was up on the Senate dais during the U.S. Capitol siege. He was found guilty in 2022, was sentenced to 21 months in prison. He was among the 1,500 plus January 6 rioters and riot defendants to be pardoned and freed from their convictions by President Trump. CBS News has learned local authorities in New York State arrested Christopher Moynihan again Sunday. According to the charging document obtained by CBS News from New York's state police and the local prosecutor upstate, Christopher Moynihan texted threats, terroristic threats, they say, against Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, texting, quote, even if I am hated, he must be eliminated. I will kill him for the future about Jeffries. Allegedly, Moynihan not only texted that, but knew that Jeffries was to appear yesterday at an event at the Economic Club of New York and noted that date and that event in the text thread. Tony, Moynihan has not yet entered a plea. His first court appearance is set for Thursday in Dutchess County, New York.
And this isn't the only case either. Let me just read to you, and then we'll look at Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries' responses. Well, of course, now my computer's glitching out. Let me see if I can get this for you. You had, after being pardoned, a guy who was a part of the January 6th mob, who was arrested on child sex crimes. You had a guy who was arrested for felony residential burglary and vandalism, and then gun charges, and now you have these terroristic threats against Hakeem Jeffries. And so this is what people predicted. Horrified by just the decision that Trump made. But then some of these people could end up being, and then turned out to be, very dangerous. And that's what this story is about. Then you have Mike Johnson getting asked.
For sure.
While we watch this, his answer is pretty bonkers. Not the first part, but the second part. Please do, if you appreciate the show, click the subscribe button right below the video. It's free, but that's the simplest way to support this show, is just clicking that button.
For sure.
Mr. Speaker, getting back to the threat to Hakeem Jeffries, this is one of a number of individuals who were pardoned as a result of January 6th who have been rearrested on various charges. Did President Trump make a mistake by just offering up a blanket pardon for every single person that was convicted as a result of that?
I don't know any of the details of this at all. I don't know who's been alleged to have been involved in this. I will say that anybody who threatens political violence against elected officials or anyone else should be have the full weight and measure of the Department of Justice on their head. I trust that will happen. I hope it will. We are intellectually consistent about that, obviously. I will tell you this. The violence on the left is far more prevalent than the violence on the right. Don't make me go through the list. You all
think about that. Remember how mad after acts of violence or threats of violence against Republicans would be when liberals would say horrible. Obviously, I get why they would be mad if anyone made light of it. That's unacceptable. But just if liberals would go horrible, and you keep claiming it's only coming from the left, let's just add the context that it's not, and in many years it's much more prominent on the right. So that's just adding the broader data, and they would go, that's so insensitive, you're clearly doing both sides. And it's like, no, but you're just falsely saying something about the data that's not true, so we have to address it. And now being brought up to him, this threat against Hakeem Jeffries, he goes, well, I still need to double down that it's just coming from the left, or it's mostly coming from the left, or it's worse from the left. And again, we've reviewed the data. It's exhausting, because all that does is, number one, perpetuate a lie that by itself you shouldn't be lying. And number two, distracts us from and brings us into a debate that's completely detached from a solutions-oriented approach to political violence. And he says against everything, right? Good. But it's so weird that he felt the need to inject that when he and people associated with him, I know, get upset when the reverse happens. But Hakeem Jeffries let me just show you the ending, because it was kind of, one of those moments, the ending of his reaction.
We will never bow down. And when it comes to these extremists out there, you better watch how you talk when you talk about me. Next question.
No! Ow! What? There it is. So then he did address Mike Johnson's reaction, I think, here. Did he? Let's see.
Leader Jeffries, when did you receive or learn about the threat against you from Christopher Moynihan? And is it plausible that the speaker hadn't heard about this case before a reporter asked him this morning, since the authorities in New York announced the arrest on Sunday?
Well, that's not clear, and that, is for people to judge the credibility of that response. At the end of the day, here in America, we're living in a moment of extreme political violence. And that impacts every single person in public service and the people that we are all working hard to represent. But we will not be intimidated. We will continue to show up and stand up.
And then it ultimately gets to the part, what was the wording? When it comes to these extremists out there, you better watch how you talk when you talk about me. Next question. Let me just say to my haters out there, you better watch how you speak when you speak about me. Next question. Now this is very serious, of course, and it also makes you wonder, right? People who get pardoned sometimes end up going on to be really dangerous. And we have an example there, and the sex crimes guy. And we got to keep a close eye on people that Trump's pardoning. Like Diddy. Trump is reportedly thinking about pardoning. Trump already did pardon the Chrisleys. And I am not alleging anything, but I'm just saying, the husband there, Mr. Chrisley. I'm just saying, right? Like, tell me this. Would you be shocked, like really gobsmacked, like as shocked as Trump is whenever he thinks that he saw a black woman in a MAGA hat? You think you'd be that shocked if I told you some people died at the hands of Mr. Chrisley here? You think you would watch a movie and they would be like, and then the prolific serial killer, and the person cast as not really doing it, but the cast as serial killer was Mr. Chrisley here? You think you'd be like, oh, that was a bad casting job. He doesn't really sell the part. You think you would? Come on. Give it. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, there's no better actor for such a part than male Ellen DeGeneres there. So just keep an eye. He didn't do that. He did other crimes that were not that significant, that were significant, but not as significant as murder. But I'm just saying, you just never know, right? You never know now that George Santos is out. What is George Santos going to do? Would you be shocked? Would you be shocked if I told you that the heist in, where was it? The Lou that it was really George Santos who stole the stuff in the museum. If tomorrow, Jaden, the Mona Lisa goes missing, you think you would be just mind blown if I told you it was George Santos? I don't think so. So just keep an eye. I'm just saying, be careful out there. You never know when people who have been pardoned will do bad things. Mehdi says, this is the asymmetry in our politics and media. If this were the other way around, Biden had pardoned someone, then charged with trying to kill Trump, it would be the biggest story in America. And every Republican commentator, congressman, and news outlet would be screaming about it in unison. Will every GOP congressman, especially Speaker Johnson, be asked to condemn Trump for pardoning this man in every media interview this week or even today? Exactly. Think about if Biden pardoned, who did he pardon? Hunter. Imagine if Biden pardon Hunter. And then later, Hunter made terroristic threats against Trump and knew where Trump was going to be and was potentially planning to hurt him. And only was able to do so because he was out of prison because Biden pardoned him? You think that wouldn't be the top story all the time forever? It would. Spoiler alert. One little ICE update. It's kind of random, but ICE is trying to increase its workforce a lot. This is hurting local law enforcement, getting short staff because ICE is making better deals to these folks. And with the scale of these raids and stuff, they're really trying to get a lot more ICE agents. But you got to have some training. You got to have some standards to be an ICE. And a part of what's impeding their ability to juice up their deportation numbers because they need enough people to do so is many of the people trying out to be an ICE haven't been able to pass the fitness standards. More than a third have failed so far. More than a third, impeding the agency's plan to hire, train, deploy 10,000 deportation officers by January. To pass, recruits must do 15 push-ups and 32 sit-ups and run 1.5 miles in 14 minutes. You know what we should do? We should go do that and be like, and you can't have us, ICE. We can do it, but you can't have us like this. And then we'll go, hey, ICE, when you talk about, to watch what you talk about me. Next question, right? And one career ICE officer told the Atlantic writer, it's pathetic. Wow. And maybe that's why we get videos like this. It's called a combat roll.
Go, go, go!
That's you gotta be ready to run. You gotta be ready to run. Wow. That's it's very serious. Again, I understand that. Just trying to do what I can. Squeeze out a little smile. End of the segment.